What's going on, guys? In today's video I'm going to show you guys step by step how to replace your G7X screen. If you guys are new here, my name is Gabe Tran. I make weekly videos on technology, videography, and what I call YouTubeology. So if any of those interest you, consider subscribing. Alright, so this is actually my second time doing this video, so you can say I have a little bit of experience. At the end of my previous repair video, my camera wouldn't turn on, but I found out that one of the cables got damaged. I replaced that, and now it works. So I do have one successful repair in my back pocket, so I'm basically a professional. Sort of. Before we get into it, I want to give a huge shout out to a fellow YouTuber by the name of Kimmy B. This is her camera that we're working on today. She actually came across my previous video when she's trying to figure out how to fix her camera. She ended up reaching out to me through Instagram and asked if I could fix it for her. This made me think two things. One, if I'm being honest with myself, my previous video probably wasn't the easiest tutorial to follow since I did mess up a few times. Alright, there you go. Let's put it back. Crap. Did I do it the wrong way again? Come on, man. And with that being said, two, this is the perfect opportunity for me to remake that video. But this time with no mess ups. Hopefully. I did tell her that I couldn't guarantee to fix her camera, because I mean, I'm not a licensed technician or anything like that. I'm just a random guy she found off YouTube, literally. So with that being said, follow this video at your own risk. Alright, let's get into it. First thing we gotta do, assess the damage. Alright, so here's where you use your deductive reasoning to figure out exactly what's wrong with the camera and what needs to be replaced. In my previous repair video, I was replacing a cracked screen, so if that's your problem, be sure to give that video a watch. For this camera, it looks like these two hinge screws came loose, which is actually a very common problem with these G7Xs. And it looks like that caused this flex cable here to rip. Kim told me that the screen was working just fine until the cable ripped, so I'm thinking we could reuse this LCD screen. So what we need to replace is these two hinge screws and this flex cable. A really quick tip for anyone who's missing one of these screws, you can actually borrow this screw right here and use it for the hinges. They're the same size. That's what I had to do for this G7X. I saw that there are 3 screws up here and I figured you really only need 2. So why not? And it's been holding up ever since. Next thing, get the right tools and parts. I'll provide links in the description box below to all items used in today's video. So be sure to check that out. First thing you'll need is some micro drivers, aka some really tiny screwdrivers. If you have a glasses repair kit, that might work as well. And then you'll need your replacement parts. In our case, these screws and also this cable. And if you're replacing your LCD screen, you'll also need some 1mm thin double-sided adhesive tape. And lastly, you'll need some blue medium strength thread locker. If you don't want your hinge screws to fall out again, be sure to use this. Alright, step 1, remove the battery. This is a very important step. This will prevent any risk of frying the internals. Do not forget this step. Step 2, remove the screen. In our case, the screen is already off of the camera, but if yours is still on, you'll want to remove these 2 screws right here. But after removing those 2 screws, you gotta be careful because it'll still be hanging on by this cable right here. But in our case, it's already ripped. Next, remove these 3 screws at the bottom of the screen. These screws are really small, so be sure to put them in a safe spot. I'm using this lens cap right here. And then you'll want to remove these 3 screws on the back side of the screen. These screws are a little bit longer than the previous screws that you took out, so be sure to note that when you're putting it back together. After taking those 3 screws out, the screen should come out like so. Next, remove this plastic cover. All you want to do is gently lift up on it. It's going to be held on by some adhesive on the other side. Gently peel that off. This is the cable that we need to replace. To remove it, flip this plastic piece up and then it should just come right off. Alright, we can toss this thing. If you need to replace this LCD screen altogether, what you want to do now is to remove the screen from this plastic housing by pressing it through with your thumbs. The screen is held in with some adhesive, so if you're having a hard time, maybe use a blow dryer to soften the adhesive. After you remove your screen, use the double-sided adhesive tape to install your new screen back into the plastic frame. Next, install your new cable into the screen. There should be a little groove that it'll fit into. Once it's seated, push the plastic tab down to lock it in place. Now we're gonna take off the back plate of the camera. To do that, remove these two screws on the side, these two on this side. There's also one hiding under here, these two in the back, and then also these four down here. Now remove the back plate. Be careful though, because it will still be held on by this cable right here. To remove this cable, flip this plastic tab up and then pull it out. Next, get your new cable and bend it right here and here so it matches the shape of the old cable. That looks pretty good. Alright, peel off the old cable. It's held on with some adhesive. Oh man, this adhesive is pretty strong. Next, feed the new cable through this hole. Before you feed it through, make sure the lighter side is facing upwards. So not this side, but this side. Now if you look closely on the cable, there are two little holes. And then on the back of here, there are actually two little pins that you can seat the cable onto. So line the holes up with those two pins. If the adhesive on this back plate isn't sticky anymore, be sure to apply some new adhesive. What I did is get some spray adhesive, sprayed a bit into the cap, got a Q-tip, and swabbed some on. Just like so. I think it needs a little more. It's a little messy, but it'll secure the cable in place. One more thing I almost forgot to mention. If your screen came completely off like this camera right here, you will find two loose silver screws somewhere inside your camera when you take off this plate. Be sure to check in all these little holes. Alright you guys, so this next step I actually forgot to do initially, so I inserted it in post. So there's a small discrepancy with the video later on, but anyways, just keep following the steps and I'll let you guys know what I'm talking about when it comes up. Before you reinstall this hinge, first you want to remove these screws. This plastic cover should come off. What you want to do with this is feed this cable through here. Now reinstall the plate back onto the hinge. So before we put this back plate back on, we first have to reinstall this hinge. Okay, so this is the discrepancy that I was mentioning earlier. If you guys had followed the previous step correctly, this little ribbon right here should actually already be tucked away and behind the hinge. So for the rest of the video, just pretend this ribbon is not there. Alright, let's get back into it. So line it up like so, flip it to the other side. You'll see two white holes right here. That's where the screws go. But before screwing those in, make sure to apply a little bit of Loctite. This way, it won't fall out again. Normally, you apply the thread locker to the screw, but since it's so small, I'm gonna apply it right on the hole. Wipe away any excess. Now reinsert this cable back into the camera. And then lock it down by flipping down the latch. Reinstall the back plate and then reinstall all your screws. If you can freaking remember which goes where. Now get your replacement screws and install them in the hinge. And don't forget to use thread locker on these screws. Make sure it's nice and tight so it doesn't ever loosen up again. Alright guys, we're almost done. All we gotta do is reinstall this cable into this chip. Be sure to flip that plastic latch up. Make sure it's seated in there correctly. Lock it down. Put this plastic cover back on. Flip this over right here. Reinstall these three screws. And then lastly, these three screws at the bottom of the screen. Alright guys, time to put the battery back in and test it out. Starting to have flashbacks of the last video, but I have faith. Let's get it. Woo! Gabe Tran does it again. Well, technically not again, since last time I sort of failed, but anyways, you get my point. The camera is fixed. Hope you guys were able to follow along and fix your own camera. With that being said, I am a firm believer in doing it yourself if you have the means to. If you were to send this into Canada to get it fixed, it probably would have cost you $200-300. At that point, you might as well buy a new camera. I think the overall cost for this fix was like, I don't know, like 30 bucks or something in parts. The process wasn't too hard. I mean, there was a lot of little screws to keep track of, but if you have a G7X with a broken screen, don't toss that thing. You can fix it yourself. But anyways, once again, big shout out to Kimmy B for prompting me to remake this video. I know there's definitely people out there with the exact same issue. Hopefully this video can help you guys out. If I can do it, you can do it. All right guys, be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.